Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. This is a viewer requested video, and as you can see, the subscriber is describing that they have left Egypt and they are now in the wilderness. But you know, the wilderness is not typically a place that is set up for habitation. So this person is, feel like they're going through the fire right now, and they want some hope about what is the promised land, how does it look, what can they expect, and they also mentioned about forgiveness. But I want to intercept that and just say that I did make a video very specifically about forgiveness with the narcissist, and I will leave that in the description under this video. And then I have other videos that kind of draw upon that as well, and I'll put some of those under the description as well. But I do, suggest that you go ahead and go through my playlist and, see what videos can relate to you, because there are over 200 videos now. So, a lot of them will help you with that as far as the forgiveness goes. So I'm not going to really touch on that so much in this video, but I will talk about the wilderness and the promised land. So this comment, is stemming from the Bible. It has, some essence of the Bible in there, and I'll just go ahead and briefly explain the Egypt and the wilderness and the promised land and that whole scenario. Okay, so basically the Israelites, they went through a 7-year famine, where they, didn't have food and whatnot. So they traveled to Egypt, where they were able to get food and, be satisfied there. Joseph was there, but how he came to be there was because his brothers had sold him into slavery, and they came face to face with him years later. But instead of, seeking revenge on them, he took them in and helped them out and gave them what they needed. Okay. Now, what happened was eventually, Joseph passed away, and his brothers and that whole generation. And during their times there at Egypt, they began to multiply, and the natives were concerned and threatened by, the Israelites, beginning to outnumber them. And they're like, hey, if something ever went down, they could side with our enemies, and we would be in we would be in trouble here. So they wanted to find a way to make sure that they kept the upper hand. So they, enslaved the Israelites, and, the Pharaoh wanted to do things to make sure that they kept their race basically weak, saying, hey, kill the firstborn sons and all these things. So now these people are enslaved, and they're praying up to God to get them out of this situation. So someone named Moses ends up being the one that God sends to deliver them. But the Pharaoh, of course, he's full of ego, and he's not wanting to, let them go in all their belongings, all the assets, the cattle and, anything, the gold and the clothes, all these things that the Pharaoh might want to keep, and feel like he's entitled to, because, he's king of the land. So all of these plagues are hitting them now, and God is doing this to get Pharaoh to know, hey, do what Moses says. And it takes so much for this Pharaoh to finally throw in the towel. We're talking 10 plagues later, and devastation, and his own people coming to him like, look, just whatever this man wants, please give it to him. We are all suffering. Let these people go. Let them take their belongings, and let's be done with this. Like, we're tired of suffering. So they, start on their voyage to this promised land that is supposed to be filled with milk and honey. But, there's a lot of questionings about them being able to take this land because they don't feel like they can defeat the people that are already living on the land. And for this reason, God makes a pact that none of that generation will actually step foot in that promised land. So they're wandering around in the wilderness for 40 years until all that oldest generation dies off, and the next generations are the ones that get to go into that promised land. God blocked them from being able to see it themselves because, they didn't believe God and they were disobeying him. Because if he says, hey, I want you to do something, don't worry, I got your back. And he's already delivered you from all these other things and you're still sitting around questioning him. Oh, well, okay, well, maybe you don't deserve that blessing so much. I'm going to have to bless someone else. He still kept it in the family. He just didn't bless that generation. The next generation took the blessing, because he had been promised this to Abraham and those descendants. Okay. So, that was just a very quick synopsis there. In my own words, I'm not a pastor, so, I don't, really go into things like that, but, just giving her comment, just to give a little synopsis of that. So, they said that the Israelites basically took 40 years to travel 250 miles. Okay, so that's pretty slow. But the whole figurative meaning behind it was God kept them in the wilderness because he needed to renew their minds. They needed to be re-educated so that once they entered the promised land, they would be worthy of that. They would, be ready to do things the way God needed them to do, and they wouldn't be thinking the former ways of the first generation, which was acting timid, which was acting hesitant, and questioning God. Okay. So for this woman who is married with 2 children, and she was in an 18-year relationship with a narcissist. She didn't mention here how long she had been no contact with him. So I'm not sure where she is at this point with that. But let's just talk about the wilderness for a second as it relates to narcissistic abuse. What is the wilderness? When I look in Google, part of the definition, it says a neglected or abandoned area. That's the wilderness. So we're out in the wild, somewhere that's not really, that's not a comfortable place because it's not set up to really be inhabited. Okay. So what are we neglecting or abandoning when we are dealing with a narcissist? When we've not only, attracted the narcissist, we've invited this narcissist into our circle, we've connected ourselves to the narcissist and spent all this time with the narcissist. What are we neglecting or abandoning when we are typically dealing with this toxic person? Okay. We are neglecting and abandoning our self-worth, our self-esteem, our health, our peace, our happiness, our divine purpose, our boundaries, our passions. So, we're basically distracted. We're distracted from our greater purpose. It's kind of like if you want to think about a person that has been addicted to drugs for 20 years of their life. They spent 20 years of their lives addicted to drugs. So they were lost in that addiction, wandering around in a wilderness, if you will. That's another kind of wilderness. Okay, and the same thing happens when we get with these narcissists and, we get blinded by the trauma bond and the enmeshment. And, they're working really hard to break us down because guess what? They're working from the dark side. They're demonic spirits. And we get connected to them. So they're dwelling all around us, eating at our energy and breaking us down, which is making us actually more susceptible to take the abuse. So this dark energy would be very happy for you to never meet your greater purpose, for you to stay in the darkness and be swallowed by it and commit suicide or just wandering around in the wilderness forever, never getting out of it. And what would getting out of the wilderness mean? It would mean, putting your boundaries back up, realizing, hey, this is abuse. This is toxic. I don't need this in my life. And, obviously this subscriber has done that because she's no longer with the narcissist. It took her 18 years. And, I understand that as well. Because my first marriage, well, I've only had one, but my first boyfriend I married, he was a narcissist, and we were together for 11 years. But I was 19 when I met him, and I had no idea. He was my first boyfriend, and I grew up in an abusive household, so I didn't know. I attracted what I grew up with, and it took me a while. It took me getting through my 20s to realize it, but that came with my maturity. And I still didn't know that it was narcissism at that point. I just knew that it was toxic and it wasn't serving me in life, and I had to get away from that abuse because it started becoming very physical at the end. Okay. And, probably just like this young lady, once you get married and you have the children, you're so invested. You are, not the narcissist, not the way we think. And that's what hurts us at the end when we find out. But, we get so invested, it's like harder for us to walk away because we've put so much into it. I mean, having someone's child, oh my gosh, that is a big deal. It's forever tying family trees, and most of us, we do things with good intent. We didn't take those marital vows to get divorced. We don't bring children into the world per se with people after we get married thinking that we're going to end up in divorce. So we fight until it just becomes completely, nowhere else to look but out at the exit door. And, when it's a divorce, I understand you taking it that far because a divorce is serious business after you have committed before God or, committed to this person. But we have to understand that if God didn't ordain that person, it wasn't the person that God chose for us to begin with. It was the person that we chose in our flesh, the person we chose in our ignorance. And that is why the situation is not fruitful. Nothing that if God gave us a spouse, that's for forever. All these divorces, 50% divorces out here in the world, it's because people are getting with people that aren't ordained for them. They're just choosing people out of their own arrogance, out of their ego, out of their ignorance, out of their flesh, out of their selfishness, out of, whatever it is that they're wanting out of that situation. But it's not something that they brought to God and asked, hey, God, are you the one that's ordaining this person in my life? Okay. So, this person is wanting some hope, and she wants to feel like, hey, I'm in that strong place that Lakia is now. It was a process. It was a process. And I've had my ups and downs with it, and everybody's personality is set up a little bit different. I'm going to tell you, when I first, I was very numb at the end of that relationship. I had suffered so much abuse until I was extremely numb. And I was put on the defense, meaning I didn't feel like I had time to feel too much of anything. And I had been through so much, and I had felt all of that throughout the relationship that I learned how to actually become numb as a protection to myself, because I didn't want to keep feeling that devastation and that crushed and down to ground zero feeling again. So as to protect myself, I learned how to not actually tap into my emotions so much. And I was just reactive though, meaning, okay, he did this. Now I just need to what am I going to do next? Not what am I going to feel, but just what do I need to do? So once I decided to have that divorce, that's what I focused on. Okay, all right, I don't want to live here anymore. I need to find a place. I was very technical, like a robot. But I want to say 2 to 3 years after the divorce is when the feelings really started to hit me, and it really started to soak in. At this point, He had really distanced himself, and as far as being physically hand-on, we knew he was alive because I was getting child support. And, life became, it was like, oh my gosh, like I was really feeling my day-to-day life as a single mom, something that I never wanted to be. I never wanted to have to be that strong because I seen people doing this while I was married. I was like, oh my gosh, God bless you. I don't know how you're doing this. And, things weren't perfect between me and my narcissistic husband, but I appreciated him being able to pick up things when I was sick, or he cooked dinner while I give them baths, not me doing everything. Like, it was like, one hand could wash the others in some kind of way. So, now years of me doing 100% of the physical hand-on, I was just feeling worn. I was feeling tired. And then my mind started thinking about, why am I in this situation? Oh, yeah, because I had a divorce. And then all these feelings started to hit me. I spiraled into a depression. And, thank God I had family leave at my job at that time to deal with that. Oh, I used it a lot. I was just swallowing. And then I tried to find distractions. So, I jumped into dating lots and lots of people, even though, I told myself that I was ready for love again, and it was a bunch of BS. I was icy cold. I was not. I probably was the player at that point. I was just looking for people. I was going out on dates 3-4 nights a week in between working a full-time job and with children, just keeping myself distracted with other people, kind of like how the narcissist would jump into another relationship because they can't be alone. I didn't want to think about my divorce, so I was dating other people as distractions. So, I went through this whole thing, and then one day I realized how unfulfilling that was to me. I'm like, okay, this is just putting a Band-Aid on a bigger issue here. I'm like, okay, Lakia, you just need to really take some time to yourself, because this isn't helping you at all. This is not fulfilling me at all. Unlike, someone like a toxic narcissist that would just stay in this cycle and not have that self-reflection. I was just like, oh, this just really isn't what I need. It's not helping me. So I decided to make some changes in my life and take some time to myself. And, and then eventually starting to date again. It was really a process before I really was understanding, because I had some self-esteem issues, really. I didn't think that I did, but I actually did. I might have required someone to have this and that, but, my boundaries in other types of areas needed to be better. So, what does the promised land look like? The promised land looks like someone that has really done the work, and that has, re-educated themselves and have learned, what they needed to work on. That's what the promised land is. The promised land is going to be the day that you can wake up and look back over this whole situation, and it's a journey. So you're going to look back over this whole journey and see the stages that you've gone through, and all that you've learned. And all that you've learned. And you're basically turning those lemons into lemonade, because now you've been purged and you're new. You're basically a new person. The person I am today is not even the person I was a year ago. Damn sure ain't the person I was 2 years ago. And then anything before that, oh my gosh, I've done a 180. I've come such a far way. I used to be so naive. I used to be so gullible. I used to always put other people before myself. I used to measure my self-worth by how much I gave to others. It's how I was brought up. So, what can you expect? Well, you're going to have to expect that you have a lot of self-discovery, a lot of things that you need to realize about yourself. We focus a lot on the narcissist. But there are a lot of things that you're going to have to discover about yourself. Because that's really the main thing here is you. I mean, that narcissist, good. Yes, learn about it, be educated so you can see the signs and yada, yada, yada. But it's really going to be you more than anything else that you need to be discovering the most in this life. It's going to be you. And as you go deeper down the rabbit hole, you're going to find out some things about yourself. And it's not all going to be pretty. But you can roll up your sleeves and make notes about these things and start working on yourself in these areas so that people won't exploit you for it. Okay, and the hope that I want to give you is the good thing is you are no contact now. Your life is not over. You are being proactive. You're seeking the information. Now it's just continuing to do the work, armed with so much wonderful information that I didn't even have. I've learned a lot of stuff the hard way, but you can actually stay ahead of the game bumping into a channel like mine's even. You start going into my playlist and listening to certain videos on the co-parenting and just how these narcissists operate and things, insightful things about yourself, better ways to look at situations so that if you do fall into a depression, you won't get swallowed by it, or you start recognizing it and you can be proactive and you can intercept things. But you say on here that you miss the narcissist. And I understand that you were with this person for 18 years and you were sincerely with this person. You married this person, you had 2 children with them. So I understand that. But I want you to consider that perhaps, rather than missing this narcissist, that more so you're missing what you thought the relationship was, because you're seeing what it really is now. Okay? It's just like the people, the Israelites, they went into Egypt and it started out good for them, right? But then look what happened. The mask fell and things started shifting around on them. So it wasn't the fruitful place that they thought it was always going to be, or the new home for them. Okay. So, there's some things that you're going to have to make your peace with as far as your ex-husband, if he is truly a narcissist. And that's going to be that he doesn't love you guys. I'm sorry to have to say that, but you're going to have to start making your peace with that, because I don't want you now, post-divorce or post-no contact, to be getting further manipulated and hurt over the situation, because you're still looking at him as a title instead of looking at him for what he is. You have to start judging your ex-husband, or, if you guys are going through a divorce, your husband by his actions and not, this is my husband. Because a lot of people end up getting really hurt that way. Oh, that's my mother, it's my sister, my brother, my aunt, my husband, my wife. They would never. And you are treating them like normal people and you're looking at them as their title. Because a husband shouldn't be treating you this way, shouldn't be treating you that way, but he is. Narcissists are predators. They don't love anyone, including themselves or their children. They will use and manipulate any situation for their benefit, for whatever they want out of it. Okay, so I don't want you to get further abused that way. What can I say here? It's not an easy situation. It's not. You've spent a lot of time, even more time than I did in that marriage that I had. So, my heart goes out to you, but your life is not over, and it just will be a process. It's a process, but I don't want you to get stuck in any parts of the process, because, this is going to hinder your progress. You got to get through the steps of the processes so you can continue to progress, so that you can get to the quote unquote promised land, where you're going to be stronger than ever. You're going to be so full of wisdom, and you can pass this down to your children. And just like that first generation that kind of died off trying to get to the promised land, but the next generation was able to just enter it right off the bat. So, in your situation, you can kind of just see this as, hey, you know what, I'm learning the hard way through this situation, but I'm going to educate my children on predators and toxic people, and they're going to have the emotional strength, the emotional awareness. They won't be naive about these things. No one's going to be able to dupe them. They're going to be forewarned about this. They're going to have that armor around them, and they can just, do things on a whole nother level. They're going to have that advantage of just, they could choose to step into the promised land, because I'm going to make sure that they know, and they don't have to go through this wilderness like I'm going through, because I know that my kids all know what narcissists are. They do. They know what all types of toxic people are. Okay. So, things happen in life. They do. They happen to everybody. Nobody gets through this life without some bumps and bruises, without some heavy lessons. That's what we're all here to do. You just had some things that you needed to learn through this narcissist, and it took you some time, in the wilderness. And I want you to consider that 18 years that you were with him, you were in the wilderness then. You were in the wilderness then. And right now, you've gotten rid of a major factor. You've gotten out of the darkest part of your wilderness, and you are very close to stepping into the promised land, basically, at this point. But all that time you were with a narcissist, that's the wilderness. As you say that you're in a wilderness now, the marriage was the wilderness as well. And that's why you're no longer in it. That was the worst part of it. So you're actually seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Before, you were just in a complete darkness, actually. Now you're actually able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, because you're walking closer and closer to it. You just have to heal yourself from this abuse that you suffered, okay? I do offer coaching if you want to have that with me. I see that you asked for my email address. That is CoachLakia@gmail.com. If you go to LakiaCrawford.com, you can see my whole setup and the coaching services that I offer if you just click on the coaching tab. And that's for anyone that's listening to this video that might want to have that from me. And I do it via the phone, Skype, or email, or a mixture of. You can see how that is. And I have bundles. You can save money if you know that you need multiple sessions. But, after 18 years of narcissistic abuse, you definitely are going to need some therapy. If you don't do it through me, make sure that you're doing it with someone that understands what narcissistic abuse is, so they can really help you, give you that kind of therapy that's going to make everything come full circle for you through all the phases. Okay? So, I hope that this is giving you some kind of hope. Because at the best case scenario, and what is it going to look like? You're going to be a narcissist repellent. You're going to have such strong standards. You're going to love yourself so much that even if a narcissist targets you because you have much, because they just, they like beautiful, shiny things, this is things that I'm saying it in their term there. And they want to attach themselves to people that make them look good. But they're going to test your boundaries to see, okay, well, this person has what I want, material or the look and the beauty. Let me see what's going on in their mind. Can I manipulate them? Now, that's the part they're going to figure out. Oh, they have everything I want, but I can't get to it. They're too strong. I have to go somewhere else. And this is what you can expect and what you're going to be looking forward to. But in your particular situation, you have 2 kids with your ex-husband. I don't know if he's going to try to be involved in your children's lives. I've heard story after story of ex-husbands, running off and not really being there after the relationship is over, because they're just focused on the new supply that they want. So you have to be prepared for him breaking your children's hearts over and over, being unreliable, doing things spitefully to try to make it harder on you as a single mother. You have to get that armor around you and get prepared for the battle of, you know, whatever this narcissist is trying to throw at you in that dark energy that wants to keep you down. But if you already know and you stay ahead of these game plans, you can see it coming from a mile away. And, you know, it's not going to feel good, but at least you already knew. You're not blindsided. It's not devastating you. It's not crushing you down to the ground. And you can stay ahead of the game here. Okay? But it gets better. It gets better. I don't know how old your children are, so, you know, that also factors into things. You know, if you have kids in diapers, or if you were with him 18 years, you might have some preteens, depending on when you guys had the children. You know, I really don't know. But, you know, there's a lot of factors in there. But the whole thing that I want you to know is, you know, narcissists, they like to keep you distracted. They want to pull you down in life. The best thing that you can do is go on with your life, because it's still your life. You can still make that choice. You just got to heal from some things and you'll recover. And if you choose, you can have the person that will love and care for you, but you have to be actually open and healthy to be able to receive another healthy person. And you may be like, Lakia, we ain't even thinking about that no time soon. And I understand that. Or maybe you feel like you are, because a lot of people, you know, you're with someone for 18 years, but you could have checked out 5 years ago. So, you know, by the time you actually get a divorce, boom, you're ready to go. You just want it to be officially free. You know, some people are like that. But I really hope that this video has helped you in some kind of way, you know, as far as what is the promised land, how does it look, what to expect, and, you know, as far as the forgiveness, again, check out the video that I actually specifically made about forgiveness, and I have 200 videos, sweetie. Just go through them and take what you can out of them, okay? If this video resonates with anyone, go ahead and hit the like button. If you have any other video suggestions, please go ahead and leave them down in the comment section. And what else can I say here? It's work, guys, but anything worth having and getting in life is going to be work. You know, this whole situation that you went through, and lots of other people, so you're not alone, have gone through this situation. There's a big reward on the other side of it. Everything that I went through, it wasn't fun. It wasn't pleasant. But would I take all those experiences back? No, because I would have to give all the knowledge that I've gained as well, and everything else as far as I've come. I'd have to give that back too. And that means I will go back to a certain level of ignorance that I never would want to return to, a certain level of naiveness and gullibility that I would never want to return to, because it would constantly put me in a situation to be exploited and taken advantage of. So yes, I had to go through those. I had to go through those situations to get where I am today. And I chose to learn from them, so none of it was in vain for me. And it doesn't have to be in vain for you either. You had to learn some things, and you learned it this way. You still have the rest of your life to live. What are you, in your 40s now? You still have plenty of your life left. Janet Jackson is in her 40s. Halle Berry is in her 40s. So many, Naomi Campbell, okay? Tyra Banks. Cindy Crawford, all these beautiful women on and popping, and put some of these women in their 20s to shame. Hold your head up high. You have a lot to look forward to, and you're going to be stronger and smarter and wiser than ever, okay? Try not to focus on the negative. If you do that, you're going to get swallowed by it. It doesn't mean that you have to be in denial or, you know, acting blind to things, but don't get swallowed by it, okay? That's another tip that I'll leave for you. And if you feel like you're getting swallowed by something, stop yourself. Stop yourself. Stop that train of thought and start thinking of something positive, or think of a solution for it, or get to the bottom of it perhaps, and it won't keep dropping in your mind over and over, okay? And that's working on your subconscious, all right? So I'm going to stop this video here because we're going into 34 minutes. But, you know, we're just sipping some tea, and I'm talking friend to friend here, and I've been there and I've done that. I have been there and I've done that. You guys don't even know half my story. I just only shared some things about my life, but I have not. One day I will do a testimony, but I've just sprinkled some of the things that I've gone through, and you guys are like wowed by that. Wait until you hear the whole story. Okay, I've been there, and if I can get through everything I've gone through, sweetie, so can you. You can do this, all right? So until next time, guys, take care.